Ladies and gentlemen, for our next session, success stories, how to thrive and survive in the UAE ecosystem, we are honored to invite on stage one of the industry's most recognized names to provide valuable insights and practical advice for startups looking to make their mark and achieve sustainable growth here in the UAE. Please give a warm round of applause for our moderator, Dr. Ryan Lemand, co-founder and CEO at Neovision Wealth Management.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Lemand. I'm in charge of a company in ADGM that does fund management, wealth management, funds as a service, etc. So today I'm very pleased to have three fantastic gentlemen. They're actually friends, and I can say friends because I know where the skeletons are, and this is how we become friends, right? So the three gentlemen have been involved in large institutions, governments, and more recently startups. So it cannot get better than this. I'll start on my left. We have Alnuaimi. So Ali has a very interesting background. He worked with on the nuclear project in the UAE. Then the mission to Mars. So he used to be on the board of directors of the UAE Space Agency, and now switched completely to something else, startups. Then to his left, you have Alex Chehade. So Alex, again, startups, then the CEO of Binance in Dubai, and now back to startups. But we can still call Binance as a startup, right? Yeah. It's a big startup. And to his left, we have Amir Tabch. So Amir has worked in large institutions like FAB, private banking, etc. And then the past few years in startups as well in ADGM as CEO for Currency, then Liminal. So he's really a pure startup builder. I'm going to start with Ali on my left. So Ali, you went from government, doing a mission to Mars, working on nuclear energy, to startups. Why? Tell us about it.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm kind of in the back of my mind thinking about what skeletons you have in your closet. Well, pleased to be here. As he articulated, I didn't see the light. Maybe I lost my light and went to the dark side and became a capitalist. But I think I'm a patriotic capitalist. That's why I left. I got involved in nuclear and space because I was very fortunate and lucky to not to be born in the 50s or the 40s, where 50% of newborns had the mortality rate was so high that only 50% survives. So this country has gone a long way. As times changed, COVID happened, strategic, theoretical problems emerged, right? They're not theoretical anymore, they're real. I was running Baraka nuclear power plant. We started the power plant. COVID happened, and we don't have demand for our other power plants. So we're at the commodities conference, and that's when my understanding of Bitcoin, a digital native commodity, really changed. So that's when I left and looked at compute as a solution to the energy problem that the UAE is leading. So that's one of the main drivers. Is the UAE has always taken on big challenges head on. This was a major challenge globally that the UAE is embarking on, and I saw a void that no one is leading. So Bitcoin brought me to this. More importantly, nuclear power brought me to Bitcoin, and that took me, to meet so many wonderful startups and founders over the last 3 years that I've been working with, enabling them to be successful here, to benefit themselves, their companies, and ultimately the country as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'm going to switch to Amir on the starting a startup, basically. So Amir, to start a startup in the UAE, there are multiple jurisdictions, multiple regulatory frameworks. How do you navigate that to start a startup?
So the UAE is a hotspot for startups right now, particularly in fintech, blockchain, digital assets, and emerging technologies. In order to be successful as a startup, you need to, one, navigate compliance effectively, and two, turn regulations into competitive advantage. Now, I'd like everyone in the audience to imagine you're a startup disrupting your market. On one hand, you face experienced regulators such as the DFSA or the FSRA who offer supportive frameworks. And on the other hand, you face investors who look at compliance as a trust signal before they're going to give you any capital. And honestly, decoding complex regulation for your startup could be time consuming. You can have annoying deadlines. It can stall growth. And worse, it can even detriment your credibility. Plus, these investors want to make sure that you don't face any legal issues as you scale. And all of that adds to the pressure of balancing speed with governance. So, in order to properly navigate, you need to adopt 3 strategies or approaches. Number 1, engage early and build trust. So, the UAE regulators actually want to work with startups. So approach them early on and build those relationships and show them that compliance is part of your strength. A recent PwC report actually showed that startups that approach regulators early can cut compliance delays by up to 40%. And that's huge. When we first expanded into the UAE, we approached the regulators and I told them, we want to be the success story that you brag about. And that one move didn't just speed things up for us. It made us a trusted partner. So think of it like convincing the referee to keep the game fair because you actually respect the rules. Number 2, use regulatory sandboxes. So if you ever wished you could actually test drive your product without the risk, that's what regulatory sandboxes are for. You can experiment, you can fine tune, you can even prove that your product actually works, which provides investors and regulators with the confidence to actually support your growth. And 3, make compliance your superpower. So compliance should be a selling point, not a headache. Embrace global standards such as SOC 2 or GDPR level privacy. And in doing that, governance becomes part of your pitch and your narrative to investors, regulators, and customers. And they will love it.
Thank you very much, Amir. So, Alex, now the startup is up and running. Now it's about who you are and what you are, and it's about branding, but it's about reputation, right?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment I'm building a DeFi platform, but you know what you need to do to differentiate yourself in the UAE. It holds a lot of similarities externally, but there's some key things that we need to concentrate here. In this region, people love brands. So whether they're external brands coming in and people running joint ventures, or you know these brands coming in and selling their products that's tried and tested outside the region. Because it's a new region, as Ali said, you know, from nothing to quite a substantive part of the globe where, you know, we're now leading Web3. You know, there's nowhere else in the world that allows you to scale and build your business in Web3 globally. The other jurisdictions are static. And as Amir said, you know, in the UAE, regulation is an enabler. You know, there are so many different jurisdictions. You can pick the one that works for your startup. And, you know, I'm looking in DeFi, and DeFi still hasn't got there. So, centralized exchanges, broker-dealers, client-facing, fiat on-off ramps, these things definitely do need regulation, and it's tried and trusted. But we need to see more innovation. And going back to sort of branding and reputation, it's incredibly hard to scale a startup. Now, the main thing here, the toughest thing is your human capital, right? And so the UAE has done a great job of attracting people. The infrastructure's here, the livability's here. You can come in and build your life. The schools, everything else is here. So as a startup, you need to attract, the top talent to be able to scale your business. And so, like, culture, work ethic, integrity, these are all the things that are easy as a founder to instill in your people, and that will help you grow. If you don't do these things from day one, it's very difficult to do culture change. And we see that in big startups that have a specific culture. The founders need to leave in order for that culture to change. And even then it's tough. So, branding, culture, reputation, these are key things for startups.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So, Ali, so I came to the UAE in 2008, obviously seeing it go up. And suddenly the past few years, the ascent was like literally went ballistically up. And this is when the UAE basically decided to create a digital economy, transforming into a digital economy. So everything is using apps, smart data, etc. So, and this is when I think it became attractive for talent. Can you tell us about this? Because you see a lot of talent in your line of work.
Yeah, if I may give an analogy, we are reaching really critical mass of talent, human capital, coming from across the world, technology, and infrastructure. So the reason why you had this exponential growth, in my view, is for the first time in a very long time, you had industries that are now location agnostic. Essentially, it's digital infrastructure. So the UAE is playing a disproportionate role in the global economy, and everyone can see it, right? Essentially, we can use our energy, whether it's financial or thermal or electrical, to power data centers and compute that can be leveraged in Africa. You can uplift societies across the world. You can now actually export your knowledge and expertise building nuclear power plants, which the UAE is also doing, and take it to countries where they don't really have the manufacturing needs or the capabilities. However, wherever there's energy, you can have data centers that will run, whether it's high performance compute in the form of Bitcoin, blockchain validation, AI compute, or other forms of compute. The other thing is, people think, you've been here, a long time, and you came at a very critical juncture in the UAE's trajectory in 2008. People think ADGM was built, a couple of years ago, or Saadiyat, or whatever. The UAE has been consistent in being, very, very long-term focused, and has a set of values and rules that spans across all religions, all tribal values, and it's been consistent ever since. Whether it's harmony, tolerance, whether it's enabling talent now with the golden visas and whatnot to live, retire. So the bet right now is really on human capital. For the longest, we were exporters of dollars. If you look at all the big tech companies in the 90s, a lot of their money came from here. But they didn't have the market or the infrastructure here to expand. However, now it's flipped. If you want to change the world, and this is really what I do, I work with founders who are changing the world, who have product market fit, and I am convinced as a technologist that they are the best in what they do, and we bring them to the best place in the world to do that. So obviously I'm unapologetically biased towards the UAE, but one thing that I do and I enjoy doing now And I like to say, having been in, the heart of a nuclear reactor and the board of a federal entity, I speak government and I speak nerd. So I like to take the opportunity. So I'm not a compliance consultant. I'm not a financial analyst. In fact, don't take investment advice from me. I only became an advisor because there's one person on this table who thought my advice was worth something about 3 years ago. And I embraced that. And I realized that one of the critical success factors that I've seen working with some of the largest AI and blockchain companies in the world, who all are operating in the UAE, is this region is unique. You are coming here to de-risk your company from a regulatory point of view. However, there are risks that you're not accounting for. So the tribal nature, the complex dynamics of the countries, the states. So invest in having an independent advisory board who are invested in your success. In my firm, we do invest in very early stage. However, I think that we invest what money cannot buy. Not just time, but insight, knowledge, relationships that, essentially money cannot buy. So obviously get a world-class lawyer and an expert consultant in their specialized fields. And I think all of these can be augmented, with AI agents and whatnot. The one thing that cannot be replaced is having, in this region at least, if you founded your company elsewhere, you actually need advisors who are almost as co-founders in your company.
Thank you, Ali. Alex, I'm going to go back to you. So if we look at the world map, the UAE, relatively speaking, is a small market. It's not a big market, right? It's nimble, it's very dynamic, but its marketing is very much interconnected as a landscape. So how can startups navigate that to create a market in the UAE or potentially from the UAE, as Ali mentioned?
Yeah, perfect. So, there's two big dynamics there, to and from the UAE. And so, as Ali said, navigating the UAE is complex, and you do need a local partner to explain the intricacies of regulation, of the different emirates, of the different markets, how they all behave differently. But what a lot of people are doing, and especially a lot of the firms here, is they come to the UAE to take advantage of the financial free zones and use this as a hub to market externally. So like in the DFSA, FSRA, the majority of these firms are using this as a base to market externally. So, there's a critical factor of what you want to do for any startup here is understanding who you're selling to. Because both of these startups are equally as valid. You have UAE firms that are first going for the UAE market. As you said, this is a multi-ethnic market. It's a little bit more transient than most. Yeah, you've got a smaller local populace, but lots of migrant workers of all levels of purchasing power. So you need to really make sure you have product market fit in what you're selling, and that's for the local market. And obviously, as I say, it's a little bit smaller than some. So again, you need to be correctly spending your time and money going for that. And equally, you can come to this country and create a startup in one of the financial free zones and go global. And and that's a different thing. That's your tone of voice needs to be set. It's made in the UAE, but externally marketing this, right? You want to piggyback off the big investments from the sovereign wealth. You've got Abu Dhabi buying football teams, airlines, sponsoring Emirates sponsoring the NBA. You can then use this branding to piggyback off that, right? And you can say proudly built in the UAE for the rest of the world. And that's where blockchain comes in. So blockchain is inherently global. There's no jurisdiction except where you domicile. So there's a great springboard here. It's we're really capitalizing on that trajectory we talked about. We're now here. The growth in UAE is parabolic. So, come here, situate yourself in the right place, right jurisdiction, right product, right marketing, and, the world's your oyster.
Thank you, Alex. Amir, I have two questions for you, twofold. Obviously, you've done this before multiple times. One, what are the lessons learned? What have you learned? What would you do different today? And second is an ancillary question, innovation versus compliance. When we innovate and do something new, sometimes compliance hasn't dealt with it, regulations hasn't dealt with it. How do you reconcile between innovation and compliance?
So in terms of lessons learned, it's mostly about scaling. So successful startup scaling is about phases and sequencing. And if you are a fintech founder and you've just started off in phase 1, we call that startup phase. And we also call it 0 to 1. You need to figure out product market fit. So you need to make sure your ideas actually work. And in this phase, you need people who hustle, people who roll up their sleeves, and people who can get things done. And we call that the doer phase. And you need to look at solving local problems first before scaling. The other thing is don't fall into the trap of expanding too quickly before validating your idea. So start small, get it right, and then scale. Now, once you found product market fit, you move into the second phase, which we call the expansion phase, or 1 to 10. And in this phase, you scale what already works. So you've already done your product market fit. Now you're scaling something that you know that works. And in this phase, you need people who can think strategically about operations, so how to optimize operations, how to refine processes. And you have to be cautious not to fall into the trap of chasing growth at all costs. And the last phase is the profitability phase. We call it the 10 to 100 phase. And in that phase, you need people who think big, long-term, commercial, and strategic. So you need to scale impact, not just operations. So scaling is a game of sequencing, figure out where you are, hire for that stage, because it all boils down to people, and then build momentum. Now, in terms of the balancing growth and innovation, in order to balance that, you need to shift your mindset from compliance being an obstacle or a hurdle to compliance being an enabler, as Alex mentioned. And to do that, you need to embrace the 3 C's mindset to compliance. So the first C is collaborate. Early collaboration with regulators, using the regulatory sandboxes, etc. So approach regulators early. The second C, and I'll wrap up, the second C is create. So create innovation with governance built in. So build your systems with compliance in mind from day one. Automate KYC and AML and use RegTech to automate your workflows. And the third C is I wrote a note to actually make sure I cover all 3 C's, competitive. So compliance is a competitive advantage. Use it to your advantage. It tells investors and partners and customers you're secure, reliable, and credible. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Amir. We're out of time. So the 3 gentlemen will be available for questions after the session. So they'll be around. Please join me in thanking them for their insights, and thank you for attending the session.